Tonight on Joy News Prime, if you're worried about when you'd be invited for your second dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine and wondering whether the implications of the wait, we're bringing you a COVID-19 special which seeks to answer all your questions and update you about Ghana's COVID-19 fight. We have the Director General of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Yabediako of WACBIC, will be joined by others. Also in the bulletin, Obuasi police arrest tenant alleged to have murdered 4-year-old son of his neighbor.
Teacher Nina Sham Pamasi. Tim or Pejano who said Akranam one who shall to Pejana on Timin Kano.
President Kotoka hails success of Ghanaian candidates at last year's WASI and says it is an indication the free SHS policy introduced by his administration is working.
Results came out. You have to know that the happiest person in Ghana, but not even your parents, was me. I was ecstatic.
The National Association of Graduate Teachers, however, believes the policy needs review.
To analyze and review the free senior high school policy so as to improve the scheme.
NAGRAT is also asking for a pay rise it says is needed to cushion teachers. In business, High Court orders Registrar General to pay in excess of 8 billion cedis to customers of some 37 liquidated investment firms. We'll hear from the Securities and Exchange Commission. The other very important story coming up in business is that the cost of data and calls on the MTN network will be going up from tomorrow, May Day. Government steps up Galamsey fight and says mining equipment seized on the field will this time be destroyed right away.
Excavators, 127 Shamfai machines platforms associated with mining equipment. The following items have been seized and will be destroyed.
My name is Israel. Joy News Prime is coming to you live from our founder for studios at Kokomo here in Accra on your digital terrestrial TV, because we're free to air and also on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 144. This is the home of independent, fearless, credible and impactful journalism. Do stay tuned in. The police in Obuasi Buete in the Obuasi East District of the Ashanti region have arrested a 20-year-old tenant who allegedly murdered a 4-year-old and hid his body under a bed. The suspect, Emmanuel Kwame, who went into hiding Thursday after allegedly strangling the boy, sought refuge in a pastor's house before being handed over to the police. Lava firm Serasto Cesaro Donko has the rest of the story.
Residents of Buete in the mining town of Obuasi have been thrown into a state of shock after the body of the boy who went missing was found in the room of the suspect who stays in the same house. Mother of the boy, Obaya, tells Love News the boy went missing yesterday after he went out to bath in the early hours of Thursday.
No sense, it's me cut on brown man. It's me sense, man, so could direct. Oh, into Quenichi. To me, didn't you only equal see one. None of us could direct by a Messias Monty. Me, my ban was in a coffee and so any water and enough for no each room. To me, quit your me call no, and I'm called catcher me papa say. Me, coffee and a masha, our correction in Nedrimonia will know. Number Pacas and a Sadia Minkoya announcement to about you could not so call police station or announcement in Timmy Gusso Shana. Yadam back could be one chain, Miss Debbie, or Honor not telling you blue. And I teach any being so or rented down well, my friend is one branding and Shadine. Tia Gusso Shamana, teaching in a sham Pamasi. Tim or Pejano who said Akranam one who shall to Pejana. On Timin Kano. Don't know Pejano, me so that by my friend and one Kano. The
lifeless body of little Nana was found the next day under the bed of a co-tenant and suspect, Emmanuel Kwame. He has been telling police he had a voice in him ordering him to kill the boy. He fled to neighboring Diawuso after the heinous act and sought refuge in the residence of a pastor who handed him over to the Obuasi police. residents are scared for the lives of their children.
Me body agro ba me bani agro na di agro enti e sa no mpo me kama me ba no na me ka che wo mo se mo hwehwe nkofo dan enhwe sa akola ni hwe ho a ti wona me wona ne na be fra me se ampa asema me kai no mo kohwe ebo ni dan mo no akwa ni hempa na se enti se me ehu abo me pa me nyanka me fru okromu ya
akwa ni mpo de bia no one ne nana no ekọ ba bia ba enti me anopa no frame se wo huni nana no ani se me bedru ya ye ka kire me se de abani me ba ya de abesi ni.
Police say they are still investigating. Reporting for Joy News, Erastus Asaredonko, Boite, Obuase in the Ashanti region.
President Akufo-Addo says the free senior high school program will continue to remain a major feature in the country's education system despite the huge cost involved. For him, providing access to every Ghanaian of school-going age remains his topmost priority despite the criticism. Introduced in 2017 with 800,000 students, the number of beneficiaries now stands at 1.2 million. At the Jubilee House Friday, the president welcomed 8 free SHS graduates who excelled in last year's West Africa Senior Secondary Certificate examination, where Ghana made an impressive showing. Of the 465 students across West Africa that scored A1 in the core subjects, 411 of them were from Ghana. Ghanaian students also occupied the 3 topmost positions in the performance ranking. Addressing the students, President Akufo-Addo said the results brought him so much joy, indicating the investment in education is paying off.
As far as our peers in West Africa and beyond on the continent are concerned, we had the most developed educational system in the country at the end of colonialism. Some of the very first schools at the secondary level were established here in Ghana, in Vansepim. Subsequently, the girls' school, Wesley Girls, Achimota. So, why don't we see if we can do it? When the figures were brought to me as to what it would mean, they were really very disturbing, because I realized that good to make this investment in this, it would mean that other areas, to some extent, would have also to trim their sails. But I felt that it was important for us to do so. That if we were really going to cut the Gordian knot of development in Ghana, investing in the youth of our country and the young people of our country was our surest way to doing so. So when your results came out, you have to know that the happiest person in Ghana were not even your parents, was me. I was ecstatic. And when I was told what your achievements had been, 465 people in your generation, the WAEC exam, who had achieved 8 A's, 411 of them were Ghanaian. Wow. I was beside myself. And then the icing on the cake, the 3 excellent students, the ones who won the Excellence Awards, of which number 2, I believe, is here with us. All 3 were also Ghanaians. It means that the investment has been worthwhile. And we're going to continue with it. We're going to make it a permanent feature of our educational system, the senior high school, the free senior high school, and make it possible for every young person who wants to study and grow to be able to do so. One of the things, too, that as a nation we have to realize, the talent, ability, hard work are not societal, class, ethnic, regional monopolies. The student, the young genius who's going to transform our lives in Ghana can be anywhere.
Education Minister Dr. Yao Educhum says government has released money to the buffer stock company and the headmasters to pay all essentials ahead of school reopening.
Mr. President, we have over 1.2 million students enrolled in high schools across the country. The free senior high school that you brought about is working. You have also provided all the resources for us at the Ministry of Education and Ghana Education Service to do our work. Between January 7th and April 11th, Mr. President, 90 million cedis was released to buffer stock so that they could pay people who have supplied food to the schools. 86 million cedis was also released to headmasters to buy perishable eggs and all the other things that they need in order for them to feed your students. You've provided everything that we need at the Ministry of Education. We are very grateful to you, Mr. President.
Now, the National Association of Graduate Teachers are calling for a review of a free SHS policy with a view to improve it. Addressing a news conference ahead of the commemoration of May Day, NAGRAT says the challenges plaguing the policy makes the review necessary. NAGRAT President Angel Kabanu says the issues at stake threaten the survival of the entire school system. NAGRAT is also calling for a 15% salary increment to help cushion the Ghanaian teacher who it says is struggling to survive in the current tough economic environment. There's more in this report.
President of NAGRAT, Angel Kabunu, who speaks for the group, indicates the current economic situation of the Ghanaian teacher is in a bad state. The NAGRAT president says the group is having to celebrate this year's May Day in the midst of a sudden escalation of prices of goods and services, adding this kind of hardship is what usually breeds corruption.
The economic situation is hitting hard on the Ghanaian worker and indeed on the Ghanaian teacher. An immediate remedy ought to be found to ameliorate the situation we find ourselves in. A bag of cement, which we bought for 34 Ghana cedis last year this time, is now going for 50 Ghana cedis. In fact, building materials have had their prices generally gone up. Not to talk about food items that we buy in the markets on daily basis. The numerous fuel price increases have also contributed to the general price increases that have affected Ghanaian workers in general and teachers in particular.
Mr. Kabunu says, as teachers, the situation at their workplaces is of great concern to them, explaining why the numerous challenges facing the free SHS policy calls for a relook at the system. The only way to achieve that, he says, is through a stakeholder engagement.
Time has come for the government to constitute a stakeholder platform to analyze and review the free senior high school policy so as to improve the scheme. Apart from feeding fees, there are other fees on the bill that cater for the day-to-day running of our schools. There are challenges with the supply from buffer stock. We call for a relook at the role of buffer stock in supplying food items to our schools. We also have challenges with the payment of electricity for especially schools that are on prepaid meters, because those schools do not have difficulty in getting the money to pay for the government to reimburse. And as we speak, government is in arrears in paying back to the schools monies that they have used for their prepaid.
NAGRAT, whilst recognizing the importance of information technology in our various schools, also wants the Ministry of Education and the Ghana Education Service to consciously remove all obstacles in the use and application of ICT in our schools.
Watching Joy News Prime, we're taking a break, but still ahead in the bulletin. If you're worried about when you'd be invited for your second dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine and wondering the implications of that wait, we're bringing you a COVID-19 special which seeks to answer all your questions and update you about Ghana's COVID-19 fight. We have the Director General of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. and Dr. Patrick Abaji and Dr. Yabediako of WACVIP. We will also be joined by John Amwesi of KCCR. Do stay tuned in. We'll be back in a bit. Some 846,000 people in Ghana have so far received the first dose of the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine in an inoculation drive government believes should help arrest the spread of the virus in the country. Many of those who took the first jab, though, are anxious to know when they will get the second jab now that it's past the 8 weeks wait period. The Ghana Health Service says there are not enough vaccines to enable it start giving out the second dose and is working on getting some more stock. But how long will the wait be, and what are the implications for waiting that long? Tonight we're getting you answers to those questions and many other questions that have come up about COVID-19, including the efficacy of the test at the airport and what the coronavirus travel advisory issued by the Ghana Health Service also means. Dr. Patrick Abaji is expected to join us. The Director General of the Ghana Health Service will be joining us. But right now, we've been joined by Dr. Yabediako of the West Africa Center for Cell Biology and Infectious Pathogens. Thank you very much. We're expecting to also be joined by Dr. John Amwesi of KCCR. But I'd want to start with you, Dr. Yabediako. We've been waiting. Many people are waiting and wondering what are the implications of not having or waiting that long to get the second dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. What does the science tell us about how this impacts immunity?
Thank you, Israel. The science is on our side up to a point.
All right.
So initially, these vaccines, if you look at the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines, the sort of mRNA vaccines, they are given at about a 21, 28-day interval, so about 3 to 4 weeks. Initially, that was what AstraZeneca was going to do, but then data came out from trials or studies done in the UK that demonstrated that actually, if you waited beyond 4 weeks, so 8 to 12 weeks, the protection that you got, the boost that you got from the second vaccine was better. And so the decision was made to change the guidance such that people who received their first dose would get their second dose anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks later. So the change that has happened in Ghana, switching our plans from vaccinating after 8 weeks to now vaccinating after 12 weeks, is in line with the data. The problem we have is if we have a further delay. There is no evidence that I'm aware of suggesting anything about beyond 12 weeks. Now, that is because every other country that has used this vaccine has given the second dose within the 12-week window. So there's no real data on what happens beyond 12 weeks. We know that the first shot within that 12-week period reduces the likelihood of transmission by 50% and reduces the likelihood of having severe disease by almost between 60 and 70%. So the first dose is quite protective within that 12-week period, but you do need the second dose to now presumably achieve the maximum level of protection that the vaccine can provide. So if we go beyond 12 weeks, then we would be in uncharted territory because there's no data. No one has tried giving the second dose beyond the 12-week window. And so we have to be very careful. It could be okay for another few weeks. We really don't know. And of course, if you don't give the second dose within the window, then you stand the risk of undermining the work that you've done up to this point and potentially having less than optimal protection in the vaccinated population.
Now, Dr. Yabediako, would you then have advised that we would have used, or we should have used the doses that we had initially to vaccinate the number of people we could give 2 doses instead of wanting to spread it to cover, to give 1 dose or 1 jab each to all the people we have so far?
Well, they say hindsight is always 20/20. I think in this case, I agreed with the decision to try to vaccinate as many people as you could with the initial doses. That was what the UK did. That was what many countries did. And at the time, it seemed like a good idea because we had assurances that there were more vaccine doses going to arrive. No one could have predicted what happened in India. Really, the situation we find ourselves in now is largely because the outbreak in India, or the significant pandemic, the devastating effects that have happened in India, have completely overturned or have turned upside down the plans that COVAX had to secure vaccines from India. India, understandably, now is no longer exporting. They are struggling to meet their domestic demand. And so, it unfortunately, when we talked about it, we said we are vulnerable because we are dependent on external supply and factors beyond our control. I still think that the decision to vaccinate as many people as possible was the right, given the fact that even a single dose has been shown to be relatively effective at preventing transmission. So it was the right play, but now we need to find whatever method we can to get doses to now vaccinate people with their second dose so we don't waste that effort.
All right.
I think we have to move away from looking at COVAX. I think what we're seeing with the shipment from the DRC, the fact that the US has 60 million AstraZeneca doses that they're going to release, we have to start engaging people who have stockpiles of these vaccines and looking to get them in to at least take care of the people who've been vaccinated and then potentially shift to a different vaccine if we can't find any more AstraZeneca.
All right, and I know that the Ghana Health Service says it's frantically working on that to use all means possible to get the vaccines in. But we've also been joined by Dr. John Amwesi of KCCR. Thank you very much, Dr. John Amwesi. And I'm going to put the same question to you, which is should we be worried that it's taking us so long to get the second jab or second dose of the AstraZeneca vaccines?
Thank you, Israel, and good evening to Yao and to everyone else who's listening. And I think we have still some time, let's say about 4 weeks more to get into, to stay within the 12-week window. So I would say, well, 4 weeks is quite some time to get things in order. I was elated to learn of, the 1.3 million doses that we going to be getting from the DRC. I think it's really exciting to learn of this, and it's interesting how someone else's inability to make use of what they have turns out to be a blessing to the rest of us, and this is just the way the world works. I think it's also testament to the way things work in Ghana. I mean, we are not satisfied with the way things are because we know we can do better, but the truth be told, we are significantly ahead of many of our compatriot African countries when it comes to our approach towards handling COVID and the vaccination. But we can always do better because we have what it takes. A lot of others just do not have what it takes. And I've been to the DRC for work a couple of times, and I know the situation there. It's really, really difficult to get any health work or research done there outside of Kinshasa.
All right. Now, some 846,000 people in Ghana have so far received the first dose of AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine. An inoculation drive government believes should help arrest the spread of the virus in the country. Many of those who took the first jab, though, are anxious to know when they will get the second jab, and now that it's past the 8 weeks wait. We started the conversation in the first part of the bulletin. We've been speaking with Dr. John Amwesi of KCCR and Dr. Yao Bediakom of WACPIP. But now we have the full squad because Dr. Patrick Abaji has joined us. Thank you very much, Dr. Patrick Abaji. So we had some questions for you earlier. Because you were not there, well, we carried on the conversation. The first question I want to ask you is, when are we getting the second doses in?
Yeah, thank you very much. And apologies for Mr. Hassan. I've actually stepped out of a meeting to join you briefly.
Thank you.
Yes, we promised that in May we'll get vaccines, and we stick to that. We know that somewhere next week, possibly, we might get some vaccines. And so our program for doing the second dose and working towards the first dose for as many Ghanaians as possible is ongoing. So those who have the first batch to have started their second dose is the 27th. And like I said, that's the earliest time one can receive your first dose. But the evidence is that if you move towards 12 weeks, your response is better. And that is why we're still working with people to ensure that by the 12th week, all those who require to have their second dose would have had their second dose.
All right. So we keep getting these assurances because you say, the Ghana Health Service keeps saying that you're working on some arrangements, including some vaccines we're expecting from the DRC. Is there a challenge with getting these vaccines from the DRC? We thought it had been all sorted out and we're going to get the vaccines like yesterday.
No, it's all sorted out. I mean, it's coming in by air, and so you come with the earliest flight available, and I think that is probably the one that is causing the delay. But I'm sure that next week we should have something coming.
But it has nothing to do with the DRC deciding that they're not going to let go the vaccines that they have?
They are all, as part of the dose sharing, is COVAX facility. And if you do not have the capability to use it, they are moving around. And so this has happened. And then I think about 7 countries who are going to benefit from it. So it's not that you collect vaccine and stock it and not use it. And so we are certain that apart from that, there are other bilateral arrangements that are being worked on to ensure that we get vaccines for all.
Do you think enough communication has gone out to the people who are anxious and waiting for their doses? Because they were expecting that they would have been called by now, and they haven't been called. And yet, even though the Ghana Health Service has come out to say that, just hold on, we're getting you the vaccines, do you think that we could help with some communication to these people? All right, it appears that the connection to Dr. Patrick Abaji is frozen, but we'll try and get him back on the line so we can continue the conversation. But fortunately, I still have on the line Dr. Yabediako of WACBIB and Dr. John Amwesi of KCCR. Thank you very much both for rejoining the connection, and we're going to try and get back to Dr. Patrick Abaji because there's quite a number of questions we want to ask him. One of them also happens to be the issue the controversy that has come up in recent times, having to do with the efficacy of the tests conducted at the Kotoka International Airport and whether it's time for a review of the procedure that we have. I want to start with you, Dr. John Amwesi, whilst we try and get Dr. Patrick Abaji back on the line. What do you make of the controversies that have gone so far as the efficacy of the test at the Kotoka International Airport is concerned?
Well, thanks, Israel. I think the testing at the airport is a very critical part of our fight against the COVID for two reasons, which I have mentioned in other forums. One being the fact that one of the factors that really is a big thorn in the flesh of success in the fight against COVID is the potential for the emergence and spread of new strains. This can happen de novo, and we've seen this in several countries where strains have emerged on their own and they completely match strains that have also emerged elsewhere. So as the transmission dynamics change, new strains can always emerge. But then there's also the new strains that will parachute in, that's how I like to say it, and they come with people who are entering the country. And the quickest way this happens is via our airports. And so it makes a lot of sense to make sure that when we're testing and trying to detect the virus, the airport really is a place we concentrate on. So when you see such a change in the numbers of cases, positive cases that are coming from the airport, it can tell you one of two things. One, that there really is an increase in the number of positive people coming in to the country. And then it's actually a very good sign in one breath that you have a system which is actually able to pick up this increase in number. And then, of course, at the back of your mind, you're thinking that, okay, so how many might have slipped through? But that's a different question. And then the other side is when you see such a huge spike in the numbers, could there be an issue with the system which we're using to do the testing and so to detect positives? Now, that also has another side to it. All this is very multidimensional, which is, if it was an issue to do the system, is it that we have improved it and so we are catching more, or there are problems with the system and so we're getting many false positives? These are all questions to ask. Now, beyond all that is the fundamental question of the sensitivity and specificity of the test, which is very well known. This has been very well publicized. So the risk of false positives or false negatives is inherent everywhere in the world with whatever test you have.
All right.
The gold standard that we have is the PCR test, but hardly anywhere in the world do they deploy PCR tests at the ports of entry. It is the antigen test. And actually, Ghana is a step ahead because we're not just doing a rapid antigen test, we're doing a point-of-care diagnostic, which is actually a bit superior. But this is not foolproof. The risk of false positive will always be there. I could go and explain a bit further, but I can see you're eager to go on to another question. So let me pause here.
Yeah, so Dr. Moisi, you talk about the fact that you hardly come across an airport where they're deploying the PCR test as a test, for arriving passengers. But what I know happens in some of the countries is that, yes, your samples will be taken, but they will run PCR and keep you quarantine you for the period until your test results come in. Isn't that another way of making sure that we we do some further work to limit the importation of the virus?
No, Israel, this is exactly where I was going to. The next step, which I would recommend, is this. When someone has a positive antigen test, they are offered the opportunity to do a confirmatory PCR test within 24 to 48 hours. This is what the recommended general policy is globally. Now, this obviously would have to be at the cost of the individual. On the other hand, if you don't want to pay for this confirmatory PCR, then you follow the system and then you go into the mandatory quarantine also at your cost. So I guess it would make a lot more sense to pay for a confirmatory PCR. Now, it's really important that the systems and the structures are followed. It's so critical in public health. And systems and structures are such that they benefit the population, but will always place some individuals at some disadvantage, and almost some will be treated a little unfairly. Now, it is this issue of when people are treated unfairly or are invariably caught in between the lines, how do we treat them in such a way that, yes, they may feel that the system has not treated them fairly, but they know that the best was done. And beyond that also, in this antigen test screening, I would also recommend that we do a representative sample of all tests that are conducted on people arriving at the airport, whether positive or negative. Just like in some airports and even at Kotoka, sometimes when you're departing or when you're arriving, they call you and do extra security. You ask them, oh, why did you pull me out of the line? They say, oh, you've just been singled out for random extra security. We can also have a system like that. So, maybe it's there, and Dr. Abaji can comment on that, where we have a random sample of everybody arriving and do a PCR just to see what our deviation from the antigen test result is. And these are all internal quality control measures that we put in place. And let me just add finally that with this confirmatory PCR testing I'm talking about, which I think will be healthy to offer to people who have a positive antigen test, it should be a completely separate system, removed from the system that is running the antigen test at the airport. They shouldn't even know which samples are coming in, which were positive on antigen or not, so that the risk of contamination bias, as we call it, is markedly reduced. And so in this way, you protect the rights and interests of the individual, but ultimately the interests of the population, which is protection from new cases coming in and particular new strains, is markedly reduced.
All right. Before I come to Dr. Patrick Abaji to respond to that, I'd want to ask you, Dr. Bediako, do you also subscribe to this idea of probably reviewing the processes at the Kotoka International Airport for arriving passengers?
I think you always have to review, this COVID is a dynamic situation. And the risk profile changes depending on what's going on. So I think what has been revealed by the reports from the airport is that there appears to be a higher number of people traveling to Ghana who happen to be positive. Now that probably reflects higher infection rates around the world in countries that people travel from. So whether it's India or other places. So we certainly have to ask ourselves whether or not at this time, we are as protected as we were before. And so I think that is why, we have to evaluate. The idea of a quarantine or a sort of an isolation period is one that certainly should always be on the table. The testing is always going to have some degree of error, whether it's false positive or false negative. Some people are going to slip through the cracks. So I think we can ask ourselves whether I like the idea of the random sampling. If we find that a large number of the supposed negatives actually are positive, then that is a sign that there's an issue with the test. I believe that actually does happen. I have heard it said that there is a process, a sort of a quality management process, where a certain number of positives and negatives are routinely taken to Noguchi, for instance, for confirmation. So I think that is happening. It would be great in the spirit of transparency if those results were released. Every month, Frontiers should just, or Noguchi should just release the quality management report. Tell us that the airport passed 100%, or it was 98%, or whatever it was. They should release those results so it gives us confidence in the test.
All right.
But I think ultimately what I take from the recent upsurge in positive cases is that COVID is not dead. COVID is very much alive. COVID is entering Ghana no matter what we do about it.
All right.
And we have to be extra vigilant about it.
Let me get to Dr. Patrick Abaji, who's joined us now on phone because the Zoom connection is not working. Dr. Patrick Abaji, the conversation on the table right now is that we probably should be looking at a review of the processes at the Kotoka International Airport for arriving passengers. I know that the travel advisory has recently been issued. Can you speak to the travel advisory and also the bit about the possibility of looking at the review of the processes and a confirmatory PCR test after the antigen test has been conducted on the passengers?
Thank you. Let me speak more about the airport test.
All right.
I think this is being run with standards from Noguchi and FDA, and the sensitivity is nearly as good as the PCR. And to some extent, the antigen is able to pick up a title that PCR may not pick. We routinely cross-check with PCR. We didn't start doing the test. We've been doing this since September 1st. And anytime we have done that, the margin of error is almost negligible. Unfortunately, because we have had a surge of 75 people, that is what has become an issue. But periodically, we do that to check, to see the standard. FDA goes there every time. Anybody who turns positive, as part of their protocol, there's a repeat before you are announced that 2 positive before you tell that we are really positive. And almost all the time, people who are positive are found positive. Where they've gone to do their PCR test, nobody is talking about going to check their standard. Okay? So I think we need to be, now if you have a policy, you don't need too much room for arguments and causes delay. And we know for a fact that those who are positive, we have had people, health workers, health directors who have turned positive, who have been detained for that period. And so I believe that we must also respect the fact that FDA and the people who are managing that are not just 10 or 4 positive. And not even PCR is even 100%. And so I think we need to look at it and respect the protocol. Our current policy is that on the 3rd day, you have a repeat test. We have been doing that. People who are on the 3rd or 4th day are negative are discharged. And so that is what we are actually looking at. And so even the ones that we have done, that people are talking about, they have been verified. And there's really very little difference in the test result that we are getting. We are recording lower numbers now, but you can see that the airlines are not going to where we are having the hotspots are.
All right.
And secondly, those countries are probably preventing their people from traveling.
Are you saying then that you don't think that it is time to review the entire process to see whether there has to be some changes somewhere?
We have always reviewed our protocols. We've always looked at the system and continue to change them. And that's why now, instead of doing the other tests where we're doing the random sequencing on the 2nd day or 1st day to the 3rd day, that also gives an opportunity to do another test to see how people can be discharged who are next. And so I see Israel, if you look at you come from UK, you pay for 2 tests and you come back. They come on the 3rd day, you are negative. They still wait for you to the 8th day and test again because of the nature of the disease we are dealing with. And so I think people must exercise patience. The fact that you are PCR negative when you are living that it can be positive. If that is so, not even have bothered to do the test on arrival. And so let us explain that. On the question of the travel advisory, importation is extremely important. So all the travel advisory is trying to say that if you really don't have to travel, and especially if you are going to some hospitals and it's not essential, don't go so that we don't have to have more importations to the country. And that's why it is. And we deliberately did not mention country because these changes periodically by asking media and other people that you make an inquiry that I'm going to Sierra Leone, for example. What is that statement? Then where it's going? Should I say? Those are the things.
Yeah. So, and another thing you said in the travel advisory is that if you come into the country, you are, even though you may have a negative PCR test, you are encouraged to self-isolate. Why?
The encouraged is very, even for those who get detained, those who get negative at the airport, they are still encouraged to go and do self-isolation. Because I can tell you there are people who turn positive 7-8 days after they have left the airport.
All right, so the question is, why are we encouraging them and why rather than make it mandatory?
Well, I mean, when you are making policy, you have to look at feasibility and the likelihood of compliance. And so you don't go and tell people, you know, you're not going to do, you look at, you give them advice, a change of get the understanding that maybe it is safer for me to self-isolate, to protect my own loved ones, my friends, and my family. So you give them the information as to why it is better to self-isolate if you can.
All right. Now, finally, I want to ask you, how many vaccines are we giving out so far, or how many people have we vaccinated so far for COVID-19?
We have done nearly 900,000.
All right.
We have, our data has synchronized about 846,000 so far, but there's still data synchronization, especially in some of the 5 areas. And mind you, some of the vaccination took place less than 2 weeks ago, and so by our data, we have had about nearly 900,000 people have been so far been vaccinated.
And are we seeing it reflect in the number of cases we're having? As in some countries, well, evidence shows, or the science shows, that after the first dose, you see a decline in the number of cases. The decline in the number of cases we are experiencing now in Ghana, would you say it has to do with the vaccine, the first doses we've given?
I think it definitely is contributing. But there are other factors.
All right.
We've just come out of a wave, and people are still using some protocol is being adhered to, and that's also contributing to the number. But one cannot say all that, especially when you look at the fact that the number of proportion of people who are being vaccinated is probably less than 5% of the target, and it's only one dose. And so there's some contribution, but there's a need for people to really look at the protocol to see why we give them the opportunity to continue to vaccinate more people. People get at least one, and people get fully vaccinated. So we need to look at it too. So we should not rely because some 900,000 have had vaccination. That is not significant to show. But the one approach we did that helped was the fact that we focused on our hospital. 43 districts where most of our cases are coming from. So if you are able to control that area, you have a spillover effect in the rest of the country.
All right. All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Patrick Abaji. Dr. Patrick Abaji is the Director General of the Ghana Health Service. But I still have on the line Dr. John Amwesi of KCCR and Dr. Yabediako of WACBIB. So we've heard Dr. Patrick Abaji. He believes, well, he says that they constantly review their processes, and as far as they're concerned, what they have now is working. Do you agree or have any thoughts on that? I'll start with Dr. Yabediako.
I mean, I think you have to admit that the airport testing seems to be working reasonably well. Like I said, we can't know how well it is working without seeing the reports from the quality assurance. And I think it would help in this situation if that was released. I don't think there's anything untoward going on, but in the spirit of transparency and putting things out there, it helps to have that, because then people can advise, people who are not perhaps directly within the circle that are making decisions can at least make suggestions. They may have some expertise and may be able to offer suggestions. So I think that would be useful to know. But I think we do have to, I think his point about people staying vigilant and not, we've not vaccinated enough people to see a site, to really expect to see much of a market change. Right now we are fortunate. It appears as though things are, it's not gone away, but it sort of seems to have plateaued a bit. But we should look at India as a clear example of a place where everything seemed fine and then it exploded. So we are, we don't exactly know where we are. We have to remain vigilant. We have to hope we can get more vaccines into the country quickly. The target of 20 million by December looks less and less likely. But I hope somehow that we can pick up the pace again and get close to that number by December.
All right.
Because the longer we wait, new variants emerge and this gets much more complicated.
All right, Dr. John Mwesi, the point you were making earlier has to do with the confirmatory test. Dr. Patrick Abaji says that there's some quality assurance that's taking place. Are you convinced we're getting it right with that?
Right. And I'd be surprised if there wasn't any quality assurance taking place. So it's heartening to know that it's happening. And just like Yao said, it will be just great to have this made public. I don't think there's anything secret about it. It's just numbers, and it makes it a lot easier to deal with things and suggest how things should be done. But there's also another part to it, which I think we really need to take note of, which is just this jump that we've seen in the numbers of positives. It's a double-edged sword. One is it shows that something is working, because if you can pick it up, it means you're catching them. But there's also the other edge, which is for whatever system you have, there will always be some cracks or some holes. So it's like a net and a sieve. No matter how fine it is, there will be something going through. So assuming you had a system that was, detecting 45 a day, and maybe 2 were slipping through. The system may be so good, so you can detect 75. The question is how many might be slipping through. So this is the double edge of it. And then the other dimension to it, which I mentioned, and I need to just reemphasize, is just are there any changes in the way things are being done, which is making us detect more really, or a change in the system, which is actually making us derive many more false positives. These are all questions which I think should be asked in the open, like we're doing, and the answers and the information should be provided openly. It provides a lot of confidence to the general public, also allows those of us who have some expertise to also advise the general public and say, look, we've also independently looked at this and that, and we can say everything is just fine. So there's many dimensions and many sides to this, and I'm really happy we're having this discussion, and hopefully we continue to get it right.
All right. Thank you very much to you, gentlemen. Dr. Yabedu Ako of WACPIP and Dr. John Mwesi of KCCR. And also thank you to you, Dr. Patrick Abaji of Ghana Health Service, who joined us a lot earlier. We're getting some breaking news coming in from right about here at the Kwame Nkrumah Circle, learning of an accident. Latif Idris is standing by and should be joining us with to tell us exactly what is happening at the Kwame Nkrumah Circle. We're learning where there's an accident. Latif, what can you tell us, or what can you report where you are?
Israel, so 2 vehicles collided, and this has taken in about 30 minutes ago. That has created huge traffic situation here at Circle, just adjacent the main Vodafone office here at Circle. As we speak, Israel, 2 people are battling for their lives, one whose legs were run over by this particular vehicle you are looking at. This vehicle is registered GW4742Z. And we have some eyewitnesses who will give us proper account of exactly what happened. But as we speak, let me just give you a brief description of the damage that has been caused to these 2 vehicles. You are looking at this Hyundai vehicle, and my camera will just zoom in. You will find blood splashed in the vehicle. The blood splashed all over the vehicle. The driver of this particular vehicle, Israel, is nowhere to be found. He and his mates have all bolted. They've left the accident scene because what we are gathering from eyewitnesses is that he is the one who caused this particular accident. This is the other vehicle. You will find it mangled, and the passengers have all been evacuated. Just when we got here at the accident scene, the ambulance service were at the accident scene and were taking the victims away. Let's move quickly to get a word from this mobile phone vendor who witnessed everything. He was here and is lucky he still survived this accident. You're welcome to join you, sir. You give us your name.
Anthony, Mr. Anthony.
Mr. Anthony, tell us what you saw.
Okay, we were sitting here and all of a sudden this car was standing here. So we saw this trotro coming from behind. That time it was coming on top speed. So this one, the blue one, was coming from behind this one, and then all of a sudden he hit this car.
He hit the white one.
White one, and then he somersault. So
the blue van
somersaulted, and then it came and stopped here.
And it landed
here.
At the back or at the side?
On the side. One side was on.
How many passengers were in the blue van?
This one was almost full, but I can't count the number. But it's almost full.
We understand this same driver ran over somebody's legs in the traffic. Is that the case?
That one there, I did not see. The only thing I saw, this one was coming from behind this one, the white one. Then it crashed the white one, and then the car somersault. So we were sitting here, so we saw it was coming towards our place. So another car, one man here, his store is here. His private car was standing here. So after it hit this one, it come and hit the other one before it somersault. So we did not see whether it hit somebody before it come. That one I did not see. Yeah.
So where is the driver and his mates?
We took all of them to the hospital.
Okay. So Israel, he witnessed everything, and there are those who also helped to turn the vehicle back, and he is one of them. Tell us how it all unfolded. You give us your name.
My name is Gabriel Safu. Yawahana Hyundai Grace, Walodu La Paz, from overhead. Odu the Vodafone traffic light, speed in the doors. Inti no be chakwemu, eno odu swerve nipa no fo nipa ne naso. Eno de be hiti. One car onu so lodu do me e wo bus stop wa. Ena ne de ne ten ne na bo fom.
Enti omo na omo ka enum no e de na mo
ka enum no yiyi omo na nipa tu omo prapa last man de na ne tiri hu nyina moja ni ti wa papa
mama mia how long did it take for the ambulance service to come into
ambulance from omo ntumi amba nti de omo amaka ko
aye ba e say ambulance bi e wa ha
no ya de omo ko da dansa na ambulance ne bae.
All right, so Israel, the police is here and they just got to the accident scene trying to gather information. I would like to try and see if we can get a word from the officer. He's from the Nima division, and quickly we want to find out if he's gathered some initial information that will feed into the investigation that will eventually be carried out here as far as this accident is concerned. You are welcome to join you, sir.
Thank you.
You give us your name, sir.
I'm Chief Inspector Amponsa.
Chief, tell us about what you are picking up, your initial gatherings.
Information gathered so far indicate that the Hyundai bus attempted to swerve pedestrians. In the process, it ran into another vehicle, and that led to the losing control of the vehicle. That's the information I gathered so far. So presently, I'm convening all the vehicles to the station to commence investigation.
We understand the driver of this particular Hyundai vehicle has bolted. He's run away from the accident scene. How are you going to pursue him to get him to come and help with investigation?
I learned the vehicle is from the Newtown station, and one of the people have identified him, so he will be traced.
Thank you very much, Chief. Okay, so Israel, he's from the NEMA MTTD, and he's just giving us what his outfit has picked up as far as this accident is concerned. I'm showing you the blood that has splashed all over, and those who suffered various degrees of injuries have been taken to the hospital for treatment. But that is the situation here. 2 people are battling for their lives. The rest are also sustained minor injuries, and all of them were involved in this accident here at Circle, adjacent the main Vodafone office. Back to you in studio, Israel.
All right, thank you very much, Latif Idris, bringing us that update from the Kwame Nkrumah Circle, where we're learning that there's been an accident and 2 people have been badly injured. But still ahead in the bulletin, we're bringing you business. And High Court orders Registrar General to pay in excess of 8 billion cedis to customers of some 37 liquidated investment firms. We'll hear from the Securities and Exchange Commission. And then the other very important story about coming up in business is that the cost of data and calls on the MTN network will be going up from tomorrow, May Day. Do stay tuned in. We have those stories coming your way.
Hello there, it's now time for business. I'm Charles Aiche. The Securities and Exchange Commission of Ghana has revealed that it has paid over 8 billion cedis to clients of liquidated fund management firms whose claims have been validated. According to the Commission, this covers over 100,000 claims that have been vetted by the liquidator and in March this year. Director General of the Commission, Reverend Danogbami Tete, has been given more details at a press briefing earlier today.
So total number of claims that we have received, if I say we, our agents received it on our behalf, total number is 100,898 claims. That's the total claims received so far. Let me quickly push this in, that the fact that with the liquidation process, until the process is over, claims would come in. So you will notice that this figure I'm giving you may be different from some figures we have put out in the past. It's because the claims keep coming in. Because, for instance, when the official liquidator gets the liquidation order, she has to put out an announcement to all creditors to file claims. So you find that the figure may keep shifting, and our agent always updates us about the movement. But as we speak, as at the end of Q1, the total number of claims that we have received is 100,898. That's the total received. Total validated, that's total that our agent has been able to go through, examine, and then establish the validity. Total number is 100,700. So total claims received 100,898. Number validated 100,700. That's about 99.8%. Now, in terms of the corresponding value, the 100,898 claims received amounts to 11.7 billion. But so far, the validated position is 8.3 billion.
Meanwhile, the Commission has also secured court orders to liquidate 37 more fund management firms, a move that will fast-track the payment of the clients of these companies.
Now, out of the 50 companies, 3 of them did not have any claims filed against them by affected clients. Now, take note that the official liquidator is going to court. One of the key, reasons or basis is the fact that the firms are unable to return funds to affected clients. So, because the 3 out of the 50 do not have any claims against them, the liquidation petitions is on the 47 of the companies. Now, out of the 47, as of 31st March, we have a total of 37 liquidation orders being granted by the court. That means that we have 10 outstanding. Outstanding means that there are still court processes ongoing for the liquidation orders to be granted. So 47 companies that the official liquidator is seeking for the courts to grant the liquidation orders. 37 so far granted. Outstanding is 10. Now, after the court grants the liquidation order, the official liquidator has to go through some processes involving gazetting and then holding creditor meetings and then class meetings.
That's how we end business for this segment. You may want to stay with us after 8 because we're going to bring you the story on MTN increasing its call and data services. My name is Charles Aite. Sport is up next.
Many thanks for staying with us. Time to bring you the sports. My name is Hans Mensah Andor, and Amida Brahima is the latest Ghanaian to feature in the NBA, following in the footsteps of Ben Bento and Pops Bonsu. Brahima signed a 2-way contract with the Indiana Pacers a few days ago and scored 6 points, made 3 rebounds and 2 blocks in his first appearance for the Pacers in only 9 minutes. Amida has been telling George Addo Jr. about his battles in the G League, how his family has been by him, and being the second Ghanaian player to feature in the world's biggest basketball league.
The journey, born on the streets of Accra and keeping in touch with the dream of playing your basketball at the very top, the pinnacle of the game, the National Basketball Association we love to call the NBA here in Ghana. Surely a path that many Ghanaians only dream of. The difficult footsteps of Ben Bentel, and to an extent Pops Mensah-Bonsu, who was even born in London, looked improbable for even the brave basketball players on these shores. Amida Brahima, let that sink in. He's the latest Ghanaian and only the second bred in Accra to make the jump. Brahima stays as a young man at Happy Home Primary School, afternoons spent as a young adult at the Tudu Lebanon House Court, and time in the Galaxy Basketball Academy in Accra were key to his development. Brahima had his college education at the University of Connecticut, where he starred in their basketball team. Starting 69 games, he made 100 appearances for UConn, scored 644 points, and recorded 390 rebounds as well as 280 blocks. He made the American Athletic Conference All-Rookie team as well. Amida was signed by Chicago Bulls in 2017 for the Summer League, although he was included by the San Antonio Spurs, but was waived, hence joined the Austin Spurs. He played 48 games for the Austin Spurs in the G League in the 2017-2018 season, signed for Partizan in the Belgian League, returned to Austin Spurs in 2018-2019 season. He got waived by the Indiana Pacers prior to this season and joined the affiliate Fort Wayne Madans in the G League, and later signed a 2-way contract to feature in the NBA for the Pacers. After 2 games already with the Pacers, especially with his first taste of NBA action, he scored 6 points, made 3 rebounds and 2 blocks in just 9 minutes. Now, meets the new Indiana Pacers man, Amida Brahima.
It's been a tedious journey, you know, just coming from Ghana, and just like we all know that Ghana is not a huge country when it comes to basketball. So just like coming into high school and going to college, you know, it's been a challenging journey, but I think eventually, I mean, it's worth it. It's worth the trials and the tribulations that I had to go through to get to where I am now, you know. And I'm excited and stoked to be here right now.
You spoke a lot about your family. How, for instance, did your mother, your father take the news that you are in big time NBA? I mean, how did they take the news when they heard it?
Yeah, they were ecstatic. Like I technically have 2 families. I have one back home, Ghana, and I have one here. So they're both families are so ecstatic. They're because they know how hard I work. They know how long I've been working to be in this position. Like it could have been easy for me to just say no, I'm and give up. But they did. I was like, no, like there are too many kids that look up to me for me to just say no. And might not be kids in America, but I know for sure there's so many kids in Ghana that like look up to me. And then they know how hard I work, and that's what that is what makes them happy. Just like them seeing all my hard work that I've put in come into fruition.
Do you remember the first lines from your mom or your dad when they realized you? Whether you remember the first lines?
Not really. My dad was so surprised because I actually called it because my mom is kind of like, she stresses too much. So I called my dad when I started getting those calls. I called my dad and I was like, hey, apparently the place are trying to sign me, but I don't want to tell mom yet until it's official.
From the streets of Accra into the big time NBA, the story of Amida Brahima. And that's it for this installment. We'll bring you more sports later in the bulletin. Stay with us.
All right, it's time for Showbiz, and Becky Beck says, yeah, hello, Becky.
Hello to you, Izzy. Today is International Jazz Day, for those of you who don't know, and something is happening at +233, so if you're out there, you can just join in. But we spoke to Steve Beatty, who tells us the essence of jazz music and why we should appreciate the genre.
It means so much to me as a jazz artist because jazz in itself, is a great genre that gives you the freedom to be to express, your musical talent or your emotions, when it comes to music. Unlike other genres, there are formalities how you have to go about things, but with jazz music, it gives you total freedom, to play the music on your instrument anyhow you want it, the best way you can express and let everybody, get to feel what you're feeling or get to understand what you're doing. So a day like this is really a great day for me, and I know for other jazz artists as well, to celebrate us, to make us understand that, hey, we're in this together, and our predecessors have done so much, bringing jazz music to the forefront. It's International Jazz Day, so I just want to chip in this, guys. If you love jazz, plug in. We're going to be at Virtual Hub, tonight, International Jazz Day. We'll be jamming. It's tight, everything. The COVID protocols, everything is really tight. It's a COVID-free place. So be there and feel free, jam with us, have fun.
Well, growing up, I got to learn that jazz is actually for rich people.
Yeah,
and
old men,
well,
women.
But more for rich people, apparently.
Then I have to start listening to.
You have to.
Yeah. From now on, my genre is jazz.
Okay.
Because I want to be rich. But Kwame Eugene is out with a new song. He calls it "Dollar on You," spraying dollar on you.
Okay.
So he explains that the song. Oh, let me just allow him to explain.
Okay, "Dollar on You" basically is about what everyone brings on the table in a relationship, in marriages, in everything. What each other brings on the table. I think it's just perfect if both sides can bring something on the table. That's what I'm saying. If you put your money on me, I put $1 on you, it's hand in hand. So what you bring on the table, this is what I'm talking about in the whole song.
I see. And it was produced by yourself?
Myself and DJ Varski.
It's like it's going to be another hit.
Oh, it is actually a hit. And
well, it just came out, so we can't say it's going to be it's a hit already.
Jump into it.
Okay.
Maybe when I start playing it like frequently.
All right. Thank you very much, Becky Bex, for bringing us Showbiz. And we're going back to our conversation on COVID-19. We have been joined by the Director General of Ghana Health Service. So we'll get to that conversation shortly. There's more news on the Joy News channel. Stay tuned in. Now, you're welcome back to Joy News Prime. Now, you're watching Joy News Prime. We're taking a break. We have a few more stories coming your way. There's a whole lot more actually coming in the bulletin. Do stay tuned in. We're back in a bit. Now, armed soldiers have been tasked to take action against illegal miners who return to mine in water bodies. This is the latest directive from government as soldiers completed the first phase of the operation geared at ridding the nation's water bodies of all forms of illegal mining. The 200-strong contingent drawn from the Army, Navy and Air Force were deployed last Wednesday by President Akufo-Addo to execute the operation. There is more in the following report.
Defense Minister Dominic Nitiwo says 2 Chinese nationals have been arrested and mining equipment seized.
The Ghana Air Force provided air cover and took aerial photographs of the operations. And by 18 hours, which is 6 p.m., when operations were halted for the day, 2 Chinese nationals were arrested at Atieku near Chufuprasu in the Central region. The Chinese, Wei Gang Ying and Wei Gang Ming, have all been handed over to the National Security for further interrogation. They will be prosecuted. Ladies and gentlemen, it is noted that since the commencement of the operation from Wednesday the 28th to Thursday 29th, the troops have destroyed a number of equipment, including 9 excavators, 127 Shamfai machines platforms associated with mining equipment, 1 fuel pump. Furthermore, the following items have been seized and will be destroyed, except items that will be used as exhibit in courts. 8x24 plate batteries, 1 pump action gun case, a generator, Huawei phone, chainsaw machine, 8 raincoats, fuel filters, non-citizen Ghana card, ID card, 2 drilling equipment, and 2 boots. This will be destroyed except equipment that the police deem necessary for their work for prosecution. Otherwise, everything on site will be destroyed.
He warns persons who return to the mining areas do so at their own risk.
There will be constant monitoring of what they have done by the Ghana Air Force with assault people on board. And so don't think that you will go back after all. This is a 3 days wonder or 9-day wonder. No, don't go back. That's all that I said. And that they have been given instructions to take action on anybody who goes back. That's all that it has to do. So there's nothing that, oh, because somebody is mining by the roadside doing this, that's not it. That's not the instruction that we have. Once they sweep a place, and they are going to sweep all the major river bodies, they are going to sweep the forest reserves. When they sweep a place, and you think you will go back, you are just endangering your own well-being in this our little country called Ghana.
Government has suspended all mining and exploratory works in forest reserves. Lands and Natural Resources Minister Samuel Abujinapo says a monitoring team has been tasked to monitor compliance.
We are putting out telephone lines. Ghanaians can call to report that I live in Apamprama. There's a forest reserve. People are still engaged in prospecting there, or people are mining a forest reserve. The monitoring team will then alert the national security architecture apparatus so they can move in.
This is not the first time such armed military men have been deployed to check illegal mining. Only time will tell how successful this operation will be.
We're taking a break to bring you more business because Charles Aite will be here to tell you why customers of telecommunications giant MTN will have to pay more for the talk time and data charges starting tomorrow, May Day. Do stay tuned in.
And it's time for business. I'm Charles Aite. Customers of telecommunications giant MTN will pay more for talk time and data charges following the increase of 1% in the National Health Insurance Levy. In a statement released by the telecommunications company, the introduction of the COVID-19 Health Recovery Levy by government has resulted in an increase in the National Health Insurance Levy, which means that customers would have to pay more for their charges, which takes effect from tomorrow, the 1st of May. Let's pull up a particular statement that they issued to their client. It reads that, dear valued customer, following the introduction of the COVID-19 Health Recovery Levy resulting in a 1% increase in the National Health Insurance Levy, your talk time data volumes will be adjusted to reflect the tax change. Now, this takes effect from the 1st of May 2021. That was the specific message to clients of MTN. Meanwhile, customer analyst with CAT International, Kosia Pierre Dumako, says that MTN's move is justified. According to him, it will negatively affect the company's bottom line if it decides to absorb the 1% increase.
Perhaps MTN might be the first of the mobile network operators to have come out of its release. Others, I'm sure, will also do so. MTN is just giving effect to the amendment in the law, and it is a natural thing for MTN to do so. And we also see other businesses also. Some may decide to absorb it or pass it on to the consumers, but that is a business decision. And you do the cost-benefit analysis, and you look at what would be in your best interest. And I think MTN might have done it, and they see that it's in their interest. It is the best interest of the company to let the consumers pay for the 1% addition.
Okay. How significantly would they have been impacted if, for instance, MTN decided to absorb it, do you think?
I think 1% is a lot. And if it wants to absorb it, that means that it's going to take toll on their performance. And MTN is also a big player, and they can afford to absorb it, but they have decided to pass it on to consumers, which is a natural thing.
Away from MTN, the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers Ghana is kicking against any move by the National Petroleum Authority to increase fuel prices from the 1st of May. Now, this follows a directive from the authority for the oil marketing companies to start applying the new taxes on fuel from the said date. In addition to that, the authority has also increased some levies on the price build-up, a move that will result in liters going up by about 47 pesos. But speaking earlier on the marketplace, the Executive Secretary of Kotoka, Ghana, Duncan Amwa, urged oil marketing companies to protest this particular move from the NPA.
It is not just unfortunate, but this is unacceptable. At the time that the Finance Ministry in the 2021 budget has already added on some hardship to Ghanaian pockets by increasing taxes by some 30 pesos. The National Petroleum Authority, SU Moto, is also deciding that at the implementation or at the outset of adding these new taxes, it is also going to increase margins, particularly the bust margin, which, if you recall, was increased from 3 pesos last year to 6 pesos. As we speak, the communique says that bust margin should be moved up to 12 pesos. That's a 100% increase. The fuel market project itself will have to be reviewed, but we are increasing the fuel market margin itself from 3 pesos to 8 pesos. Again, MPA is also increasing your UPPF from 27 pesos to 30 pesos. The sad part of it is that the transporters who even do these jobs are not getting the monies. Again, you have primary distribution margin, which used to be 8 pesos. NPA has increased it to 11 pesos. If you put all of these margins together, tomorrow NPA has added additional 17 pesos to every liter of fuel you purchase. If you do the numbers, that's almost 80 cents per gallon. If you put all together with the taxes that the finance ministry is requesting for, what it means is that every Ghanaian effective tomorrow will be paying almost 2 Ghana cedis, 50 pesos extra on your current fuel prices. And we think that the NPA would have to be reined in at this point. It is not only ill-timed, but extremely insensitive and bad, considering how high fuel prices already are in this country and how the complaint has been all this while. We think that the NPA should be made to withdraw this without delay at all.
Over 1 billion cedis has been mobilized in taxes just under a year from activities of oil marketing companies and bulk oil distributors. That's according to revenue assurance firm Strategic Mobilization, which was appointed in 2017 by the finance minister. Now, this was disclosed by the firm to the media during a visit to assess its operations at its site in Tema. Kwame Yanka has the rest of the story.
The revenue assurance firm Strategic Mobilization Ghana Limited, SML, currently monitors all the existing depots of the oil marketing firms and bulk oil firms in the country. Prior to the introduction of SML, there were some serious leakages and under-declaration of the volumes lifted by some oil marketing companies and bulk oil distribution companies. Since its deployment of the electronic metering system, EMS, in June last year, it has already saved the country more than 1 billion Ghana cedis. Christian Tetesoti is the managing director of Strategic Mobilization Ghana Limited.
In terms of monetary value, the term is the additional revenue as compared to 2019 has been 1 billion and over. So our presence in our monitoring, I can say, has been very effective. What we can say is that the volumes that were being declared have suddenly gone up. And so one could infer that maybe in the past, the volumes that were being declared were not the right volumes. I'm just saying one could infer.
There are also plans to extend the services to other areas, including bonded warehouses. Christian Soti shares steps taken so far.
And currently, we've been asked to do a feasibility and survey the warehouses and come out with a report as to how it could be done. And we are finished with the survey and the feasibility, and the report has been given to the GNRE. When we are given the go-ahead, then we can expand into that area also and do the monitoring of and provide assurance for those bonded warehouses. We surveyed about 300 warehouses across Greater Accra, Western region, and Ashanti region. And so we are waiting. And I believe that when we are given the go-ahead, we can then roll out into those areas.
SML is currently not connected to Ghana Revenue Authority's Integrated Customs Management System, ICOMS. Once done, SML will have access to declaration, products lifted through to payment to ensure the country is not shortchanged. For Joy Business from Tema, this has been Kwame Yanka.
Now, government has set out conditions for the country's mining community with regards to the prospecting for gold in forest reserves along water bodies. Already, the president has ordered the Ghana Armed Forces to clear all river bodies of persons and mining activities. Let's listen into both the Defense and Lands and Natural Resources ministers who updated the media on this exercise.
There will be aerial patrols where GAF has already swept past. Armed men will be authorized to take action, immediate action, on anyone who returns to these river bodies as the patrol goes by air. So once the armed forces sweep past, we expect that nobody should return to the place. But helicopters will carry armed men to patrol the place every 3 days. And anybody found operating, again, on the areas that have been cleared, the security will be tasked to take immediate action. Whatever they say or whatever they do, we cannot communicate to you, but they will take action. So it is not in your interest to return to site. And we want this message carried out to the people of Ghana. Don't return to site. Once it is cleared, we expect the river bodies to return to normal. The task of the armed forces and the Ministry of Lands and Forestry is to ensure that River Pra is cleaned up. And we'll do everything and anything to make sure it is cleaned up for the people of Ghana to see that result. And we'll continue like that in all river bodies.
Fundamentally, they are talking about the water bodies of our country, the state of our water bodies. They are talking about our forest reserves. The illegal small-scale mining who takes place everywhere else is important, and we are going to deal with that. And in fact, we are dealing with that. But the water bodies and forest reserves, we came to the well-reasoned conclusion that those are high priorities. And so measures were put in place. The first measure we took was to direct the Forestry Commission to cease the issuance of forest entry permits for purposes of mining. For those who are familiar with the processes leading to actual legal mining in forest reserves, having secured all your permits from the Minerals Commission, the EPA, and so on and so forth, you require a forest entry permit in order to mine in a forest reserve. If you are going to mine at a place which is not a forest reserve, you don't require a forest entry permit. But if it's a place which is designated as forest reserve, you have to go to the Forestry Commission for a permit in order to be able to mine. So we'll put a freeze on that, which means there cannot be further mining in forest reserves.
And that'll be it for business. Sport is up next.
And it's time to bring you the second installment of Sports here on Joy News Prime. My name is Hans Mensando. Now, earlier today, His Excellency the President had a meeting with Chief Executive Officers of the banking sector as government continues its efforts to raise $15 million for national teams' continental and international assignment. The President told the CEO's attempt for the Finance Ministry to bear the cost of football teams' preparations and participation is like squeezing water out of stone, and has solicited their support to make the country's targets of winning next year's AFCON and reaching the semi-final of the World Cup successful.
I can't come and ask you to contribute $25 million without myself making a contribution on behalf of the state and the government. After a great deal of haggling and approaching the Ministry of Finance is always like squeezing blood out of a stone. The minister has agreed that he will contribute $10 million of this amount as government's share of the funding. So there's a balance that we're looking for. In normal times, best of times, I mean, this amount of money would be very easy to raise within these few minutes that we're here from the people who are gathered here today. But as it is, we know the difficulties. But nevertheless, we want to make a collective effort to assist the Black Stars. Everywhere in the world, success on the football field, sports, has a way of also igniting and inspiring national success in virtually all areas of national endeavor. Businesses will take the benefit, individuals, across the board. So our task is how we can bring the renown back to Ghana, how we can bring the luster back to Ghanaian football, how we can bring back the smiles on the face of Ghanaians. And that exercise itself will be an uplifting factor for our work as a nation. So this is the reason I brought you here today. come and assist me prepare the Black Stars for these two important competitions ahead of us.
Now, the Ghana Football Association has launched a juvenile league, a competition designed to unearth young football talents. Former Ghana skipper Stephen Appiah, beneficiary of grassroots football, says it is a great initiative worthy of commendation. The former Juventus playmaker has called for financial support for owners of coach clubs.
Well, I always say that I think that feeling is not there anymore. But with the support from the corporates, I think that it will come back, because most of us standing here talking today, I think that our coach team, the coach team that we played, they didn't hand anything, and they were the people who did the job. I mean, when we started as young chaps, they were the ones buying the boots and all that, and people came to harvest, so they didn't get anything. So this time, I think that there should be a structure, something that they will say, okay, this coach team, you have 10 cities in the season, so you know how to manage it. Because when you look at the people who do juvenile football, they see it as a philanthropist work. They do it because they want to do it, they have passion for it. But today it looks as if that feeling is not there anymore, because they think that they are not getting anything from it. So I think that we have to motivate them, we have to support them, and then that will urge them to do more.
Now, the United Nations Association of Ghana Commission for Women and Children Affairs have sworn in Richard Oblitekome and other officers into office as part of its mission to eliminate all forms of violence against all women and girls in the public and private spheres, including trafficking and sexual abuse. Comey, on its part, promised to deliver on the set goals of the commission.
Streetwise Management Streeter Foundation, our purpose or our main aim is to help the children. And looking at where I am from, and today getting this opportunity to stand in front of big men and women over here, it's an amazing feeling. But it also reminds me, doing this kind of job, to give back to the same people from the same place I come from. And we are a lot of these young guys out there, and it's always been a great honor to always be part of an association like this. UNA of Ghana, Women and Commission for Women and Children Affairs. It's always been a great honor, because I think it's always good to fight for these children. And you can see recently what happened. I think it's my role as a boxer. A professional boxer. I've been to places, and I always love to give back to the children, give them hope. And it's just a great feeling, to give back. Educate this young child back in Ghana, because I believe a lot of children in our community wanted to be great, wanted to be rich, but yet they don't really want to go through the hard way as I've been through. So it's my duty as an ambassador to go to their communities, educate them, and let them know that when you work so hard and you believe in God, definitely you can get to wherever you want to be. And also, with our women, we all know, dating back from some time, all the women are always tagged as for the kitchen, and which I believe, it's not the way we should go. Our women work so hard. I was raised by my mom, so I feel like with the way I conduct myself, people love me, and I believe if all women are gonna get the support in order to raise their children, we're gonna have a great people who are going to be future leaders.
And that's it for sports. There is more at myjoyonline.com/sports. The news continues with Israel Live.
All right, thank you very much, Hans Mensando. But actually, that's how we wrap up the bulletin here on Joy News Prime. My name is Israel Live. Thank you very much for watching. You have a good night and a great weekend.